This is where Tonga is, by the way. I had to look it up when I found out I was going there. I want to start by just telling a really short, interesting story. So imagine you're walking down a dark road. It's just, the sun's just gone down. There's coconut trees around you. There's maybe some livestock kind of wrestling in the bushes. And there's no lights like anywhere in sight, and it's getting very dark. And you're walking, and then in the distance you see a man coming towards you, and he's extremely muscular, big, carrying a machete, with a shirt wrapped on his head, very serious face, and he's kind of walking, and you're just like, oh, okay. And he sort of approaches you, and you're trying to think, okay, what's happening next? If you guessed that he would offer you a coconut, you would be correct. So I'll go from the heavy to the light with that story. And I think that's a great example of like the generosity of Tongans, and their culture of sharing food is very important. This was most of the students at the school that I worked at for 2.5 years. I was in an education program in partnership with the Ministry of Education to promote student-centered teaching. And so I taught some English classes, but I also worked together with the other teachers at the school to promote student-centered learning. So these were my fellow teachers, my principal, Juelo, Sine, Susana, Sionivi, and Akesa. And I was very lucky to be placed with them, and I had a good relationship with them, but it took some time to build that and to get into a good working rhythm and understand what was happening at the school, how it worked, and how I could best fit in. And I think this is one of the common challenges that you face as a Peace Corps volunteer, is coming into a situation where there's all these systems in place, all these habits people have, all these ways of doing things, and things that are just understood that you have no idea what's going on, you have to make sense of it. So one of the big challenges for me was that the traditional way that English was taught in most Tongan schools is very top-down and sort of authoritarian. So I'm the teacher, you be quiet, listen to me, memorize this, and then when I ask you, tell me the right answer or else I'm gonna get mad at you. It was the typical pattern. So my students really were not, they had adapted to that, and they were not as open to taking risks in the classroom. And it took a lot of time for me to figure out how can I get them comfortable with taking risks, because if you don't do that, then you're not going to learn. This is something I came to school to find one day, and I'll talk about this a little later. But one of the things I did, I thought there was a different slide, that's why I changed. One of the things I did with my students began by having some fun activities that were necessarily content heavy, with just socializing them to stand up in the classroom, walk around, talk with each other, practice. And after doing that enough times, getting them used to it, then I could actually run activities where they had role playing and they pretended certain things were happening. And as often happens in Peace Corps, you'll be doing something like your normal routine, and then some totally random, unexpected thing happens, and you're just like, okay, well, I guess this is happening. So I come to school one day, and I see this rubbish bin with a giant rock on it. And where I'm taking this photo from is basically, the office is right here, and I'm facing outside. So I walk past this to come in, and I'm thinking to myself, well, this is going to be an interesting day. And I asked my principal, Juelo, what's in a trash can? And I found out that there's a rule that if a pig comes onto school property, they're allowed to catch it, and then they notify the neighbors, and if no one claims it after a certain amount of time, as my principal explained, then they can destroy it. This is a emotion she and smiled very widely. So there was a barbecue not long after this. I don't think this was that same pig actually, but this was from another feast day. And that's just one of the many things that happens. You get on a bus, they stop at the bus driver's friend's house. Maybe the bus turns around or breaks and they're tearing the engine apart. Just little things like that happen all the time, and eventually you get used to it. And these are my students on actually the very first day of class, doing an activity where they're introducing themselves to each other, and they just think it's like so funny and weird, like why are we doing this, what's going on, like this Palangi is like really hilarious and weird. And I had a lot of fun with them. So I wanted to sort of connect this to career goals and how this relates to things that you could do afterward, because for a lot of people the big question is, I would love to do this, but I also have career goals and I don't know how it connects to them. I think, for me, I was in the human-computer interaction track until recently, and the jobs I'm looking at are user experience designer. And these are just some taken from some job listings in the past couple months from these companies. So this is exactly the kind of skills that you get very deep experience with in Peace Corps, and then you're able to actually tell really interesting stories about that to recruiters later on. So I just wanted to tie that together. And this is good, but it's really not the reason to do Peace Corps. Like if you're doing Peace Corps only because of a career goal, only, I think it might not be the best decision. But the real reason and the thing that I remember the most from it is my experience with my teachers and students. So that's all. I just wanted to share that with you.